I just wanted to add one sidebar comment to this whole national phenomenon of urban redevelopment and the success that the industry's had in pulling people from the suburbs into the near town and inner city markets in Atlanta, Denver, Cleveland. You know, you look around the country, all over the place. There are successful urban activities going on, and it's really not such a phenomenon when you think about who the buyers are. They're principally the baby boom empty nester buyer, relatively affluent. They have money in their pocket. They're looking for a change in their lifestyle. People who bought their first house in Cinco Ranch 20 years ago, and now their kids are grown. They've got a 3,500 square foot house. The old man is driving 45 minutes to an hour to work. They don't need the big house. They don't need the playgrounds. They don't need the ballparks. They don't need all that stuff. And there's a sizable portion of those people who want to move to the inner city and have a different way of life. Secondarily, in the last 7 or 8 years, young urban professionals with no kids, whether they're single or married, with no children, are the ones, the other half of that support that has gone into the inner city. And we often give a lot of the credit to Reliance Center or Minute Maid Park or some of these inner city attractions that bring people in and out of the city, but none of that would have worked if we hadn't had demographics on our side. We've got 20 years of baby boom demographics that are going to continue to drive the near town market in just about every major city in the country. The dilemma that we have and the missing link is that inner city redevelopment has two limitations on it. One is its price. It's expensive, and so not everybody can do it. And the other is, if you want to have families move back into the inner cities, we've got to do something about urban schools. Because no matter what people say, when young people start to have their children, the children's needs begin to take precedent over the adults' needs, and people migrate back to Cinco Ranch and the Woodlands and Sienna Plantation and other suburban projects to put their kids in school. And you know, it is not about ballparks, in my view. It's about demographics and creating a place where people want to live.
The score is currently men 1, men 2, women 0. So while a woman thinks about standing up to ask the next question, how many of you, put your hands up if you actually live in a single family dwelling in the suburbs? Okay, put your hands down. Put your hands up if you live in an infill urban project. We did a study of this in ULI back in 2001. We found that there was 108 million people had moved into suburban America from 1945 to 2000. On the projections, another 108 million people were going to move into metropolitan America between 2000 and 2050. If you think about the accommodation that we had and what our cities were in 1945, and you think about the explosion of the suburbs, and you combine that with your comments about tightening controls over the use of land, it doesn't take much to work out that the bulk of the development is going to occur in suburban development. Yes, we will get some redevelopment of land, but I mean, this has been known within ULI since 2001. And I think the only thing we ever published on it, because a lot of this was just buried, the only thing we published was a miserable little paper called Smart Growth on the Suburban Fringe. I mean, it had to have a sort of negative connotation in it. Who is the female that wants to start to redress this?
Well, while you're looking for a victim, let me throw one out there, because this kind of touches on the subject of the schools. And as Charlie mentioned that I was going to get into it, but I decided not to because we'll be here for breakfast. It's something that I'm very opinionated about. But without question, and I'm going to ask both David and Ted, or any one of the four that wants to answer, real estate, what's the three most important words in real estate, right? It's liquidity, liquidity, liquidity. It used to be location, location, location. But when you are a residential developer trying to get that buyer, some people say it's schools, schools, schools. And I have heard that the school district, what school district is it in, is this property in, is his home in, is either the first or second question asked by prospective home buyers. Is that still generally correct?
Yeah, it's one of the most visited sites on our website. Not only is it the school, but it's which elementary do they go to within the district. And those of you moms here know whether it's exemplary or this. I mean, we know all this stuff. We know the principals. We know the people. I mean, this is huge. And when Ted says, I want to sell you these lots for this much money, and we say, well, we can't because it goes to this elementary instead of this elementary. I mean, there are values based upon what schools these people go to. And the developers, they develop this section in this district before they develop this section in this district and hope this district comes up to speed and time but by the time they get there. And so it is huge. I mean, if you talk about why people choose locations, it is, I would say, schools number one, in community and commute and those kind of things, which are the same reasons why developers will buy in an area. And that's the same reason why I would buy there. I mean, we're all trying to guess where the customers are going to go. And as opposed to us pulling customers out of suburbia and bringing them downtown, you know, our job in life is just to be there with what the customer wants. You know, we're not driving the customer anywhere. We're just trying to provide what the customer wants and demands more quickly, better, more efficiently than anybody else.
Well, schools are certainly extremely important. I do think overall location, bedroom to boardroom, seems to be an issue for a lot of people. Although if you really look at Houston closely, we have 11 downtowns, counting the medical center. So you honestly haven't seen commute times increase more than a minute or two over a 20-year period. And in fact, some areas they've probably gone down because we've invested so heavily in transportation improvements. And today with the Texas Education Agency, I believe that's at TEA, the issues that David was talking about, you can drill down and find out incredible amount of information on the campus, not the district, but literally down to the campus level. And we know for a fact that our community has already been shopped before the customer ever gets there. And in a lot of ways, they've already bought the community. They've bought the location, the community, and they're there to buy a house. Don't get in my way. Let me go see David Weekley or Steve Von Hoff or where's another builder out here? I don't see another builder right now, but that's what matters. So education is an absolute key, location, and then the choice of builders within the community is incredibly important too.
Okay, thank you. I think we've pretty well put to bed the rumor or the myth that the burbs are dying, and we're all going to be moving back into Marvy Fingers high-rise downtown. As nice as it is, it's just not going to hold everybody. The city of Houston, in my opinion, and I welcome anybody else to speak up, will probably never see any large-scale annexations by the city of Houston again. And yet their ETJ covers a pretty significant part of the suburban market. What challenges, Ted, Charlie, any of you, what challenges do you see coming at us as a result of the city not extending those city services out further? What do we need to be doing and to make sure that the quality of development that you have put on the ground and have worked very hard to create is maintained over time, both from an infrastructure and from a services standpoint? I mean, we see Texas Children's Hospital stepping out and building what is probably going to be the largest pediatric specialty hospital outside of a central urban core in the country, and then teaming up with Methodist and creating Texas Medical Center's West Campus at the west end of the energy corridor. We see the services in that respect coming, but what other challenges do you think we're going to be seeing?